The council chamber had never been this loud. Aliens of every imaginable size and color shouted across the marble-like tiers, their voices blending into a buzzing chaos. Holographic translators struggled to keep up, sputtering out garbled sentences in a dozen languages. At the center of the dome-shaped chamber, a single proclamation hovered in golden letters, projected for all to see. Effective immediately, the Council bans all human weapons from galactic space. The vote had been unanimous. Ambassador Thomas Hale, representing Earth, sat in silence. He had the look of a man who knew better than to fight the tide, dark hair trimmed with military precision, jaw locked in thought, hands folded in front of him. He didn't even twitch when the statement finalized with a satisfying electronic ding. Instead, he leaned back and watched as the alien representatives cheered, their relief almost palpable. Finally, the galaxy was safe from humans. Or so they thought. Councillor Drevik of the VYRATH, a species built like armored crabs, slammed his claw against the table and announced with relish, "This ban shall be enforced at once. Humans brought projectile weapons, explosives, plasma casters, and even chemical devices into our peaceful territories. Never again shall their primitive but dangerous tools threaten civilized space." Dozens of others nodded or hissed their agreement. The irony wasn't lost on Hale. He'd been a soldier before he was a diplomat. He knew exactly why the Council had moved so quickly to target Earth. It wasn't because humans were the only ones carrying weapons. Far from it. Every species had their armories. The difference was simple: human weapons worked. And maybe, just maybe, they worked a little too well. A sleek, silver-skinned creature known as a Lethari turned toward Hale, its tone condescendingly sweet. "Ambassador Hale, I trust your species will comply. You understand, of course, that this ban ensures mutual safety. Peace among the stars must be preserved." Hale gave a smile that didn't touch his eyes. "Of course," he said smoothly. "Humans are nothing if not cooperative." That earned a round of satisfied nods. The aliens had expected protest, maybe even outrage. But instead, the humans sat there calm, collected. Too calm. When the meeting adjourned, the representatives filtered out, congratulating each other on their bold move. Hale walked the long, spiraling ramp toward the shuttle bay where his aide, Lieutenant Carla Reyes, waited for him. Reyes was younger, sharp-eyed, with the kind of energy that could barely be contained in her crisp uniform. "So they really did it," she muttered as they walked. "They actually banned every weapon we brought into this sector." "Looks that way," Hale replied. "And you just sat there," she said incredulously. "Sir, you didn't even argue. They think they've declawed us." Hale stopped, glanced around to make sure no alien ears were in range, then leaned in slightly. "Reyes, they think weapons are steel, powder, energy circuits. They've got no idea what a weapon really is." Reyes blinked. Then, slowly, the corner of her mouth twitched. "Oh," she said softly, the realization dawning. They boarded their shuttle, a small transport far less intimidating than the gunmetal frigates humanity usually fielded. Hale let the silence stretch as they broke atmosphere and entered the black of space, stars glittering like shards of ice. He didn't need to explain further. Reyes knew. She'd served in the Marines before becoming an attaché. Like him, she'd seen what humans could do when stripped of their gear. The aliens had banned guns. They hadn't banned fists. Word of the ban spread fast. Across human colonies, outposts, and even civilian trade ships, confusion turned to frustration, then laughter. The messages came in waves to Hale's office, captains demanding instructions, officers complaining about confiscated rifles, merchants furious about impounded defense systems. And then came the videos. A security feed from a mining station on the border showed a group of alien inspectors trying to disarm a human foreman. They seized his plasma drill, confiscated the coil gun he'd welded to a turret, and posted a notice of compliance. The foreman shrugged, set down his lunchbox, and when one of the inspectors shoved him, the feed cut to 30 seconds of chaos, limbs flying, armored aliens hitting the floor, and one human standing tall, knuckles bleeding but grinning ear to ear. The inspectors limped out, dragging their unconscious comrades. The mining station logged full compliance. Then another report surfaced from a freighter crew. Aliens boarded to strip weapons. Pirates showed up a day later, assuming the humans were defenseless. The pirates left with broken jaws, snapped mandibles, and a ship full of broken pride. The freighter's log noted, weapons confiscated. Crew unharmed. Pirates fled. The galaxy began to realize its mistake. The real turning point came a week later, when Hale and Reyes attended a diplomatic dinner hosted by the Zelvari. The Zelvari were tall, delicate beings, all thin bones and translucent skin, who prided themselves on etiquette and subtlety. They invited Hale as a gesture of goodwill, hoping to show that the ban was working, that humans could live peacefully among the stars without their dangerous toys. It went well at first. Too well. The food was strange but edible, the music soft, the conversation polite. Hale played his part, charming the hosts with Earth's history and culture, careful to avoid mention of war. Then a rival delegation arrived late, the Garath. The Garath were the opposite of the Zelvari, hulking brutes covered in thick scales, their voices booming like thunder. They despised humans, not out of fear, but out of insult. In their eyes, humans were small, soft, unarmored, yet they kept winning battles. The Garath didn't understand it, and what they didn't understand, they hated. One of them, a massive brute with scars across his chest, stomped to Hale's table. He leaned down until his breath fogged the ambassador's glass of wine. "Where is your weapon, little human? The council took them from you. What do you fight with now? Words?" The room fell silent. Every alien eye turned toward Hale. Reyes tensed beside him, ready for a fight. Hale slowly set down his fork. He rose to his feet, standing half the Garatha's height, and looked up at the towering alien without flinching. His voice was calm, almost casual. "My weapon?" Hale said. He raised his hand and tapped 2 fingers against his temple. "Right here." The Garath blinked. A low rumble of confusion passed through the hall. "And here," Hale added, clenching his fist. Before anyone could react, the Garath shoved him, hard. Hale staggered back a step, steadied himself, then moved with the speed of a man who'd spent decades training his body as much as his mind. His fist shot upward in a clean arc, connecting squarely with the Garatha's jaw. The alien's head snapped back. His massive frame teetered, then collapsed like a falling tree, shaking the floor. Gasps echoed through the hall. The Zelvari nearly fainted. Reyes covered her grin with a wineglass. Hale calmly adjusted his sleeve and sat back down. "Now," he said to the stunned assembly. "Where were we?" "Ah, yes, the merits of peaceful coexistence." News of the unarmed duel spread like wildfire. The council tried to spin it as an unfortunate incident, but the damage was done. Whispers began to circulate in hushed tones. Maybe banning human weapons wasn't enough. Maybe humans were weapons. Pirates stopped targeting human freighters. Smugglers refused to board human stations. Even seasoned soldiers from other species began to hesitate before challenging them. But hesitation bred fear, and fear bred desperation. Late one night, as Hale worked in his quarters aboard the diplomatic cruiser, Reyes barged in with a grim look. "Sir," she said, "the VYRATH are calling an emergency session. Rumor is, they're proposing to go further. Not just banning weapons. They're talking about banning humans." Hale leaned back, eyes narrowing. "So," he murmured, "the council thinks they can erase the problem by erasing us." He stood, clasped his hands behind his back, and gazed out the viewport at the endless stars. His reflection stared back, calm, cold, unyielding. "They still don't understand," Hale said quietly. "You can ban every gun, every blade, every bomb. But you can't ban what we are." Behind him, Reyes's eyes hardened with resolve. "Then maybe it's time we remind them." Hale's lips curved into a thin smile. "Oh, we will." And out there, beyond the black horizon, the galaxy waited, nervous, uncertain, and unaware of the storm it had just invited. The council chamber was tense in a way that even silence couldn't soften. When the emergency session was called, Representatives filled the marble dome with unusual speed, whispers crawling like insects along the tiers. The holographic proclamation from last week, ban on human weapons, still hovered faintly in the air, though now it was flanked by a new draft proposal. Species Restriction Act, limiting human presence in council-controlled space. Ambassador Hale read the words, jaw tightening. He had expected this, but not so soon. Reyes sat beside him at the human delegation's modest table, her posture rigid, eyes scanning the chamber like a soldier about to be ambushed. The council speaker, a shimmering orb of light whose body was made of plasma-contained energy, pulsed to get attention. Delegates, order! Order, I say. We have gathered because the VYRATH have petitioned for further measures. Councillor Drevik, you may address the chamber. The crab-like VYRATH lumbered forward, mandibles clicking. Esteemed members, we have seen the truth. Banning human weapons was not enough. Their fists are as dangerous as plasma cannons. Their minds are as sharp as any blade. The incident at the Zelvari banquet proves it. Humans are living weapons. Therefore, the only logical solution is to ban humans themselves from carrying out diplomatic or economic activities within our territories. The chamber erupted, cheers, boos, shrieks of agreement and outrage all at once. Hale remained still, fingers drumming once on the table. He could feel eyes boring into him. Councillor Sareth of the Lethari rose gracefully, silver skin catching the light. The Garath warrior who was struck by the human ambassador has yet to regain full jaw articulation, she said, voice silky with venom. If a simple human diplomat can cause such damage, what of their soldiers? Their laborers? Even their children? I second the motion for restriction. Children? Reyes muttered under her breath, her fists clenching. A squat, fur-covered being from the Rim colonies spoke up. And what of their traders? Their colonists? Banning them would mean cutting off supply routes. Humanity may be small, but their goods flow through half the Rim sectors. Collateral damage, Drevik snapped. The argument spiraled, voices overlapping. Hale finally stood. His voice, when it cut through, was steady but carried steel. Esteemed councillors, Hale said, drawing their reluctant attention, you speak as if humans asked to be part of your council. As if we begged you for acceptance. A ripple of surprise moved through the chamber. In truth, Hale continued, it was you who came to us. It was your scouts who discovered Earth's colonies. It was your envoys who extended invitations. Humanity did not intrude, we were invited. The room quieted, if only a little. And now, Hale said, leaning forward slightly, because you fear us, you speak of restrictions. Very well. Do as you must. But understand this, ban our rifles, our ships, even our trade caravans, and humans will still endure. Because survival is what we are. You mistake tools for strength. Tools break. Strength does not. For a heartbeat, no one moved. Then chaos erupted again. The speaker pulsed violently. Enough! Enough! This matter shall be debated in committee. Until then, humanity retains its council seat. Session adjourned. Back aboard the diplomatic cruiser, Reyes paced furiously in Hale's quarters. Sir, they're scared out of their shells, and fear makes people stupid. If they vote to ban humans, what happens to our colonies? Our trade outposts? They'll cut us off from half the galaxy. Hale poured himself a small glass of amber liquid from a crystal decanter. He swirled it once, watching the light fracture through it. They won't succeed. Not yet. You sound confident. I sound patient, Hale corrected. He sipped. They'll keep pushing. But every time they push, they reveal how little they understand us. That's their weakness. A chime interrupted them. Reyes tapped her wrist console, frowning. Message from Ceres Station. Pirates again. The council confiscated their railguns last week. Now raiders think they're easy prey. Hale raised a brow. And? She smirked. And the miners beat the pirates with pickaxes, fire extinguishers, and one very angry grandmother with a frying pan. Stations intact. Pirates fled. Casualties, none human. Hale chuckled, the first genuine laugh in days. There's your answer, Lieutenant. You can strip humanity of weapons, but you can't strip humanity of fight. Reyes shook her head, half laughing herself. The Council's going to lose its mind when these reports keep stacking up. They already have, Hale said quietly. Within weeks, the galaxy was buzzing with stories. They spread faster than official dispatches, whispered in cantinas, traded over comm channels, replayed on grainy footage in dark corners of spaceports. A group of unarmed human colonists on New Thessaly captured an entire slaver ship using nets, hammers, and teamwork. A human diplomat on Tarvek fended off an assassination attempt with nothing but a chair leg and sarcasm. A ship of human students, stranded without weapons, fought off raiders by depressurizing hallways one section at a time, forcing the invaders to retreat before they suffocated. Every story reinforced the same point: the ban hadn't disarmed humanity. It had only forced them to show what they really were. The aliens grew restless. The Garath were humiliated that their warriors couldn't intimidate humans. The Lethari whispered about humanity's feral cunning. The Vyrath outright demanded expulsions. And through it all, Hale kept smiling his diplomat's smile, watching the cracks spread through the Council's facade. The breaking point came not from politics, but from blood. A convoy of mixed-species freighters was attacked on the fringe of Council space. Pirates came in overwhelming numbers, too many for escorts to handle. Ships scattered, some fleeing, some surrendering. One vessel, Artemis Dawn, carried both humans and Zelvari aboard. The Zelvari, frail and unarmed due to the ban, panicked. Their captain radioed in despair. "We are lost. The humans cannot protect us. They have no weapons." The transmission was picked up across 3 sectors. But the Artemis Dawn didn't fall. Instead, the humans aboard rallied. They rerouted engine exhaust to scorch boarding tubes, welded doors shut, and used engineering drones as attack swarms. They fought hand-to-hand in the corridors, improvised slingshots and chemical sprays, turned every corridor into a trap. By the time reinforcements arrived, half the pirate fleet was disabled, the rest fleeing. The Artemis Dawn was battered but flying. Not one Zelvari had been lost. The recordings hit the networks within hours. Every alien in the Council saw the footage of humans bleeding, laughing, fighting with nothing but willpower and grit. And the whispers changed tone. Humans weren't just dangerous. They were unstoppable. At the next Council session, Hale walked into a chamber humming with unease. The Vyrath looked angrier than ever. The Garath glowered. The Lethari seemed uncertain. Even the speaker pulsed dimly, unsettled. Councillor Drevik hissed the moment Hale took his seat. "This cannot continue. Humans undermine the balance of our galaxy. If weapons are nothing to them, then we must consider harsher solutions." Reyes's hand twitched toward the table, but Hale gave a subtle shake of his head. He rose, calm as ever. "Councillors," he said, "you believe banning weapons protects you. But tell me," he raised his voice, letting it carry through the chamber, "how do you ban determination? How do you confiscate resilience? How do you outlaw courage?" The silence that followed was heavy. Some aliens shifted uncomfortably. Others clenched their jaws. Hale let the silence stretch before leaning forward, his eyes hard. "You think humans are a problem to be solved? We're not. We're a reality you must accept. You can fear us. You can hate us. But you cannot stop us. Ban every weapon in existence, and humanity will become the weapon. That is who we are." The words hung in the air like a gauntlet thrown at their feet. The speaker finally pulsed. "The Council will deliberate further." But everyone in the chamber knew it wasn't over. Not by a long shot. Later, in the privacy of their quarters, Reyes leaned against the viewport, watching the stars slide past. "They're cornered, sir. They won't admit it, but they are. And cornered animals lash out." Hale joined her, his reflection lined with exhaustion but burning with quiet resolve. "They'll test us again," he agreed. Harder this time. They'll want to prove humans can be broken. And when they try? Reyes asked. Hale's smile was thin, almost grim. Then they'll learn the truth. He raised his glass in a silent toast to the stars. You can ban human weapons. But you can't ban human. The trap was obvious the moment Ambassador Hale received the invitation. The Council's message was neatly worded, filled with diplomatic courtesy. A summit on the neutral station of Chorus Prime, attended by select representatives, to discuss the human question. The speaker insisted it would be a final effort at reconciliation. Hale was to attend with no military escort, no weapons, and only one aide. Reyes didn't buy it for a second. Sir, they're setting us up, she said, pacing the narrow cabin as their shuttle prepared for docking. They banned our weapons, failed at restricting our presence, and now they're scared stiff because the galaxy keeps telling stories of humans winning bare-handed fights. They don't want peace. They want leverage. Hale sat calmly, hands folded in his lap. Leverage requires something to hold over us. They don't have it. You're too relaxed, Reyes snapped. What if they try to detain you? Or worse? Hale's lips curved in that infuriatingly calm smile of his. Then they'll learn something new. The shuttle docked with a heavy metallic thud. Guards in polished armor awaited them, council troops, tall in uniform, their faces hidden behind featureless visors. They escorted Hale and Reyes into the summit chamber, a circular hall lined with obsidian-like stone, banners of a dozen species draped high. Around the crescent table sat the most vocal opponents of humanity, Drevik of the Vyrath, Sereth of the Lethari, 3 Garath warlords, and a smattering of others. The speaker hovered above them like a dimming sun. Hale took his seat at the lone human table, Reyes at his side. Silence stretched until Sereth spoke, her silver lips curving in disdain. Ambassador Hale, we thank you for attending. It is fitting that humanity should hear the Council's decision in person. Drevik clacked his claws together. The time for half measures is past. Humanity cannot be controlled. You cannot be contained. And so, we have decided. A hollow screen flickered on. Lines of text glowed in cold blue. Resolution 47A, effective immediately, humanity is expelled from all Council-controlled space. Any human colonies or vessels found within Council borders will be seized or destroyed. Resistance will be met with force. Reyes shot to her feet. That's genocide. Hale put a hand on her arm, steadying her. He looked across the table, eyes cold as steel. So this is your solution? Eradication. The Garath warlord leaned forward, tusked mouth curling. Not eradication. Correction. Your species is dangerous, unpredictable. You fight with nothing. You win with nothing. The galaxy cannot risk such chaos. Better to cut the infection out before it spreads further. Hale's jaw tightened. He could feel the weight of their decision, not just against him, but against every human colony, every ship, every child in Council space. And yet, he remained outwardly calm. You've made your choice, Hale said. Sarah smirked. Indeed. Guards seized them. The armored soldiers stepped forward, energy restraints in hand. Reyes reached instinctively for a weapon she didn't have, cursing under her breath. Hale, however, merely straightened his jacket. The first guard reached for his wrist. Hale moved like lightning. His hand shot up, seizing the soldier's arm, twisting hard. With a sharp crack, the armor plating bent, servos whining. Hale pivoted, yanked the soldier into another, and both hit the floor in a tangle of limbs. Gasps erupted around the chamber. Reyes was already moving, using the chair as a bludgeon, slamming it into another guard's helmet with enough force to crack the visor. She grabbed the stunned alien's weapon, an energy staff, and swung it in a clean arc, dropping a second attacker. The counselors recoiled, shouting in panic. The speaker pulsed frantically. Order! Order! But there was no order. Not anymore. Hale ripped a restraint from the floor and used the jagged edge as a baton, spinning it with soldier's precision. He dropped one guard with a blow to the knee, then another with a strike to the throat. Reyes fought back to back with him, each move crisp, trained, deadly. Within moments, the guards were down, moaning, unconscious, or too broken to rise. Hale stood in the center of the chamber, chest rising and falling, restraint-turned weapon dripping sparks. He looked up at the stunned counselors. "You wanted to ban weapons," he said, voice echoing in the silent hall. "And you forgot, we are weapons." No one dared speak. Finally, Drevik scraped his claws together, rage overcoming fear. "You cannot fight all of us. You cannot fight the galaxy." Hale dropped the sparking restraint, letting it clatter loudly against the stone floor. He stepped closer to the table, eyes burning. "Then the galaxy had better think very carefully about what kind of fight it wants." By the time Hale and Reyes made it back to their shuttle, alarms blared across the station. Council forces scrambled, ships mobilized. Yet none dared block their departure. The image of two humans laying waste to a full security detail was burned into every witness's mind. As the shuttle pulled away, Reyes collapsed into her seat, panting. "Sir, we just attacked Council security inside a summit chamber. Do you realize what they'll call this? An act of war." Hale leaned back, unruffled. "Then war it is." Reyes stared at him, eyes wide. "You can't be serious. Earth can't stand against the combined fleets of the Council." "Can't we?" Hale asked softly. "You've seen the stories. You've seen the recordings. Every time they think we're beaten, we rise. Every time they strip us down, we adapt. That's what they don't understand. We don't fight with ships. We don't fight with weapons. We fight with will." Reyes was silent for a moment, then gave a thin, fierce smile. "Then we'd better make sure the galaxy sees it." And the galaxy did see it. The Council tried to spin the narrative, branding humans as dangerous extremists, liars, aggressors. But footage from Chorus Prime leaked, grainy clips of Hale and Reyes dismantling soldiers twice their size, standing unarmed in the chamber while declaring humanity itself was the weapon. The footage spread like fire through the networks. To oppressed colonies, humanity became a symbol. To pirates and smugglers, a warning. To soldiers across the galaxy, a question whispered in mess halls: would you fight a human barehanded? Would you bet your life against theirs? And fear grew. The Council doubled down, mobilizing fleets to intimidate human colonies. But intimidation backfired. On Vega outposts, unarmed colonists refused to evacuate when warships arrived. Instead, they stood outside the airlocks in lines, facing down plasma cannons with crossed arms and steady eyes. The Council forces withdrew unsettled. On the agricultural world of Redhaven, when inspectors came to enforce expulsion, farmers fought them off with sickles and herding dogs. Reports claimed the inspectors fled screaming, chased by a pack of weaponized livestock. Every attempt to suppress humanity only fed the legend. Then came the Council's final gamble. A fleet of combined warships, VYR-8EH destroyers, Garath dreadnoughts, Ledhari frigates, massed on the edge of Sol's system. The message was clear: surrender, or Earth would burn. Hale and Reyes stood on the command deck of the Resolute Dawn, humanity's flagship, not the most advanced ship in the fleet, but the one carrying their spirit. They watched as the alien armada filled the viewscreen, blotting out the stars. Reyes's voice was tight. "That's hundreds of ships. We can't fight them." "No," Hale said, eyes fixed on the screen. "We can show them." He tapped the comms console, broadcasting across every channel. His voice echoed not only in Sol system, but across the galaxy. "Council fleets," Hale began, calm but carrying an edge of iron. "You stand here believing you can ban humanity. That you can erase us with the stroke of a resolution. But hear me now, you cannot ban survival. You cannot ban defiance. You cannot ban the human spirit. We have fought your pirates, your assassins, your soldiers, and we are still here. You fear us because you know the truth. Weapons break, fleets fall, empires crumble, but humanity endures." The alien fleets shifted uneasily, comms buzzing with crosstalk. Hale's voice rose. "If you fire on Earth, know this: we will not fight you with weapons. We will fight you with ourselves. With our hands, with our minds, with every ounce of will that has carried us from caves to the stars. And you will learn, as every enemy before you has learned, that humans are the last species you should ever corner." The broadcast ended. Silence followed, stretching like an eternity. Then, slowly, one by one, alien ships began to turn. Not all, some stayed, their commanders loyal to the Council's orders. But enough turned that the threat fractured. The fleet was no longer united. And Hale smiled. Because in that moment, the galaxy understood. Humans were weapons. And nothing could ban that. The first sound was silence, and then the heavy thrum of the council chamber doors sealing shut, like the closing of a tomb. Every delegate's eyes locked on the humans, as if expecting them to shatter beneath the weight of the moment. Armed guards lined the walls, council enforcement in full gleaming armor, stun lances and shock cannons in hand. The council high speaker, a serpentine being with crystalline scales, raised a claw. "This is the end," it declared, its voice amplified through the chamber's resonance field. "The humans defied council law. They carried weapons where none are permitted. They bring chaos, destruction, and violence wherever they crawl. They will now be dismantled." For a heartbeat, nobody moved. Then Sergeant Elias smirked and spread his empty hands. "That's funny. Because we didn't bring a single weapon." He tapped his chest. "We are the weapons." The chamber erupted into 1,000 voices, outrage, disbelief, laughter, terror. The enforcement officers leveled their cannons, the capacitors whining as they charged. Captain Rourke's eyes scanned the chamber, his pulse slow, calm. "Hold steady," he murmured to his squad. "Wait for it." The speaker gave the command. "Open fire!" Bolts of compressed plasma tore across the chamber, but by the time they reached their targets, the humans were already gone. They moved like water, slipping between beams of lethal energy, vaulting over barriers, using the environment itself as cover. Sergeant Elias slid under a blast, sprang upward, and caught an enforcement officer's wrist, twisting the weapon back against him. The cannon discharged point-blank, dropping its wielder in a blaze of blue light. Lieutenant Vega somersaulted forward, caught a chair mid-air, and hurled it into another soldier with the force of a missile. Bones cracked, armor crumpled. She ripped the shock cannon from his limp hands and used it as a club, smashing through the next line. Chaos spread like wildfire. Council delegates screamed and fled, some slithering, some crawling, some flying toward the exits. Enforcement lines buckled as humans tore through them barehanded, using stolen weapons as tools, not of destruction, but leverage. The speaker shrieked. "Impossible! They're unarmed! How are they winning?" Rourke advanced through the storm, weaving past fire, his fists a blur. He didn't need steel. Every strike was precise, deliberate, disabling rather than killing, but brutal enough to shatter morale. His soldiers mirrored him, turning the chamber into a demonstration of human evolution, instinct, and warlike creativity. And then came the counterstrike. The chamber's ceiling split open, revealing a descending cage of shimmering energy. It fell with speed, surrounding the humans in a luminous dome of containment fields. "You cannot fight plasma grids," the speaker hissed, triumphant. "Not even your flesh can withstand quantum dissolution." The humans looked up at the glowing walls tightening around them. For the first time, the chamber quieted, waiting for panic. Instead, Elias chuckled. "Oh no. An energy cage. Whatever shall we do?" He reached into his pocket, pulled out a strip of metal, half of a broken chair brace he'd wrenched free earlier. With a flick of his wrist, he jammed it into the floor where the containment beams converged. Sparks flared, the field hiccuped, and a tiny gap opened. Vega dove through it like a knife through silk, rolled, and immediately yanked free another brace. Within seconds, the squad had improvised a dozen tools, wedges, mirrors, even armor pieces stripped from fallen guards. They weren't just breaking the trap, they were using it. Redirected beams carved through council furniture, walls, even the speaker's podium, showering the chamber with fragments of stone and light. Delegates who hadn't already fled now bolted for their lives. Captain Rourke stepped through the smoking remains of the grid and looked up at the speaker. "Your mistake," he said, his voice cutting through the chamber like steel, "was thinking weapons make us dangerous. Weapons are just shortcuts. You took away the shortcut. You left the source." The speaker bared crystalline fangs. "You cannot intimidate us. The Council rules by law." "Law?" Elias barked a laugh. "You tried to chain us with your laws. But you forgot, humans don't break. We adapt. Every restriction you lay on us, every barrier, every cage, you're just sharpening the edge." More enforcement flooded into the chamber, dozens, then hundreds. The squad of humans stood bloodied, bruised, breathing hard, but their eyes burned with something more terrifying than weapons: conviction. Rourke raised his hand. His squad lined up beside him, shoulder to shoulder. "You wanted to see what we are without guns, blades, or bombs?" His gaze swept the chamber. "You're looking at it. And you're already losing." The guards hesitated. Plasma cannons hummed, but their hands shook. They just watched 5 unarmed humans dismantle the Council's elite soldiers. And then one of them dropped his weapon. The sound echoed louder than any gunfire. Another followed, then another. A ripple of doubt spread through the enforcement line. The speaker shrieked for control, but fear had already poisoned the ranks. Vega leaned close to Rourke. "Sir, you seeing this?" He nodded. "They know the truth now. They know their weapons won't save them." The speaker, trembling, slammed a claw against the podium, its scales cracking under the force. "This is not how the galaxy works. Civilizations obey the Council. You are nothing." Rourke's gaze locked with the speaker's, unwavering. "We're human. That means we're everything you're afraid of and everything you need. We're survivors, creators, destroyers, and when someone tells us what we can't do, we find a way. Always." Silence fell, broken only by the crackle of dying plasma fires. The speaker slumped back, eyes darting as if searching for an answer it didn't have. Elias stepped forward, blood streaked across his face but grinning ear to ear. He raised his fists to the chamber. "Go on. Write your laws. Ban our guns, our blades, our ships. Strip it all away. You'll never take us out of the fight. Because humanity doesn't need weapons." He slammed his fist into his palm. "We are the weapons." The chamber reverberated with his words, as if the very stones had absorbed them. One by one, the humans turned and walked from the Council chamber, leaving the smoking ruin behind. No guard dared stop them. No delegate dared speak. The Council had tried to crush them with rules, with laws, with cages. Instead, they had proven something far more terrifying. That night, across the galaxy, whispers spread faster than light. Of 5 unarmed humans standing against the might of the Council. Of plasma and steel failing where fists and resolve prevailed. Of a species that could never be disarmed, because its true weapons were written in its bones, its blood, its very spirit. And everywhere those whispers went, fear followed. Because the galaxy finally understood, when you ban human weapons, all you've done is unleash the humans. On the flight back, bruised and silent, Rourke finally spoke. "They'll come at us harder next time." Vega smirked despite her swollen lip. "Good. Let 'em. Gives us more to work with." Elias leaned back, hands behind his head, smiling at the stars beyond the viewport. "Can't ban what's inside us. They'll learn that the hard way." Rourke nodded slowly, eyes fixed on the dark expanse of space. "Let them write laws, let them build cages, let them fear their own weapons. Humanity will always be one step ahead. Because we've never needed the trigger to pull the galaxy apart, we've only ever needed ourselves." The squad shared a quiet laugh, the kind only survivors know. And far beyond the viewport, across the endless void, the galaxy shivered. The Council had banned human weapons. But they had just learned, too late, that humans are weapons. Loudspeaker, if you enjoyed this story, make sure to subscribe to the Void Narratives for more HFY tales of humanity defying the odds, breaking the rules, and rewriting the galaxy.